Grab your cocktail and get ready for this episode of the Old Fashion Masonic Podcast.
Welcome to the Old Fashion Masonic Podcast, where we talk all things Freemasons while drinking an old fashioned. I'm Brian.
And I'm Russ.
Holy hell, for the folks that are watching, they're like, Russ, I thought this dude left the planet. Well, he didn't.
I did not. Just a little sabbatical.
However, you are going to be leaving the country soon on a cool trip, so we're anxious to hear about that when you come back, and that's going to be exciting.
You bet.
Right? So, Russ, I know you're a little rusty, so I'm going to help you knocking the rust off here.
All right.
Your job is to introduce this handsome fellow in between us. So I'm going to let you do it like only Russ Brown can do it.
You know what? Thank you, Brian. I just appreciate you just welcoming me back, and you just warm my heart, to tell you what.
Well, that's a lie, boys.
So today we have our brother, Tim Kelly. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Tim. So, Tim, have you ever seen an episode of the Old Fashion Masonic Podcast?
I have not.
You have not?
No.
That is great. So, listen, I'm going to tell you guys, bring you in. Our boy had all sorts of questions. He even thought he was going to be in control of this episode today. Nope. But you guys all know that we treat everyone nice. And so at the end of the podcast, for those that know, you know, we have a bottle of Malort that as we go to toast out, we're going to let Tim try. And as you can tell, there's not much drink out of it because we don't just let everyone try that. So, Tim, push masonry to the side, my friend. Why don't you tell our listener, who is Tim the man?
I'm 36 years old. I'm married. I have two boys. One's 12. He'll be 13 in January. I'm looking forward to some changes coming up. And then my youngest is 7. And they're both doing really good in school right now. Super proud of them. And I'm currently employed with the Air Force active duty. Have been since November the 1st. November the 1st was my 18-year anniversary, which coincidentally was my dad's birthday as well. But we're going to be getting into some family things in a little while.
Yeah. So you did say you were married. So does she have a name?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
Hey, listen, you guys know we're all about saving these boys from having to buy dresses and jewelry.
Yes, this is right. My wife's name is Abby. My oldest son is Joey. My youngest is Henry.
All right.
All right.
Very good.
All right.
Well, why don't you share with us a little bit your Masonic journey? Your Masonic journey is...
Okay. That's a great question. I joined, I was initiated in 2020 at the Old Lodge, the Masonic home.
Okay.
And
which is Albert Pike Lodge number 303 in Wichita, Kansas.
Yes. And shortly after that, COVID happened. So I was stagnant for about a year, a little more than a year before I got my second degree. And it's been an exciting journey all the way. I think back to everybody saying, don't do any research until you get your third degree. I believe in that. It was hard to do that. But once I got to my third degree and hadn't experienced the whole journey, it's been a lot of fun to be a speculative Mason and be able to explore facts written by Masonic authorities and kind of just speculate as to what things mean. What the value is of all the things that I've experienced so far.
Okay.
It's been a good journey.
So you were raised, again, the date?
Oh my goodness. It was February the 12th, I believe, whenever I was initiated. And then I was raised on the 12th of June in 2022. Yes, 2022.
Nice.
Well, toast one of our newest members of Albert Pike. Cheers.
Thank you.
So, part of any other bodies?
No. I attempted to get into the York Rite and just my
They didn't let you in?
Well, they let me. It's just it was so the Grand Master.
Was it your attitude or effort?
It was my schedule.
Oh, well, there's that.
The Grand Master at the time, he was pushing everybody to have that experience, have that opportunity. So they had it scheduled. And I was able to make the first schedule up at Newton, and then some things conflicted for the next.
Yeah. So you had a conflict.
Yes, conflict. Yes. So.
And you let the Grandmaster down. That's okay.
Yeah. No. Hopefully.
Well, there. Sorry about that. Most works for McClarty. That's this guy, not us. So, What's interesting, is probably going to be a little refreshing to our listeners, is it seems like when somebody becomes a Master Mason, every appendant body in the world just pops their head up. It's like, oh, do we have a new guy? Right? And so good on you for not trying to go out and join everything just to join it and
Just
to try to master
all at once. That's
I didn't know that about you. And so that's really cool in its own little way, because that's just how we as Masons tend to work. And when Russ and I were on the membership committee for the Shrine, we knew when people were coming out, it's like, hey, how you doing? Want to have a drink? Want to join the Shrine? Right? All the things. So I can appreciate that, and I absolutely love it. So let's stay Masonic. Okay. So you're a Lewis, right? Not Lewis, his name. You're a Lewis, right? And so a Lewis, for those that don't know in Masonry, the really simple abridged version is you're a legacy. Mm-hmm. But you've got quite the legacy, right?
Yes.
And in fact, that you might have been the first person in recent history in our lodge that received a Lewis jewel or medal, right?
Yes.
So basically, talk to us, high level about your legacy, and then the jewel where you're surprised. Just kind of walk us through that part.
I was actually really surprised and very grateful that Brother Chris, he was in the East in that year. He surprised me with that. I remember before my dad and granddad came out, because they wanted to be there for the raising, he had asked me a question. He was like, do you know what their dates were? And I was like, oh, no, not really. Let me ask Dad. And then that was it, right? But then whenever he presented that to me after I was raised, I was like, it all came together, and I was like, wow.
Now you look back.
This is really cool, yes.
So Chris did a lot of things. So Chris was a very young master for Albert Pike Lodge, and with the size of our lodge, it was crazy. And the guy who put him on the line, absolute genius. However, we'll go push that to the side. Chris is a very thoughtful human, and what he did with that, I think, was a thankless act.
Right.
And it's just one of the many reasons why I think that Chris Collins was an unbelievable master for our lodge. Mm-hmm. And so, but continue through, but his thoughtfulness there, and it wasn't about a him show. He really made that about you and your family. And it's just, I thought it was very thoughtful.
Yes.
So
definitely give us some detail.
And then, well, he was also very flexible with scheduling, because we had to get Dad and Granddad good to go whenever they were available to come out. So it changed a few times and ended up landing on a Saturday morning. Everybody was there, and it was just a lot of, I feel a lot of gratitude.
You did it at the Shrine Center, didn't you?
We did it at the Shrine at the time. Because we hadn't gone back to the lodge.
Right.
Yeah. But that experience you wanted to know about.
So tell us who's on this jewel.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the very top is my great granddad, Gerald Kelly.
Raised in what year?
August the 30th, 1943.
Think that through. Listen to the dates, boys.
And what's really cool about that is nobody knew about it at the time. That Lewis jewel that I was presented didn't have great granddad on it, because my dad and my granddad, nobody knew much about him and his Masonic journey. And what I did was I reached out to Brother Tracy, the Grand Secretary.
Yeah, most worshipful Tracy Bloom.
Yes, and he reached out to the Secretary of West Virginia's Grand Lodge, and he emailed me what looked like an old version of his document.
Okay.
And there it was, 1943, and I shared that with the family, and everybody was like, it was huge.
Good on you, Tracy. Good on you.
Yeah.
And under that was oh goodness, I don't think he had any siblings that were also Masons, but Granddad, he was also a Mason, raised in sorry, I can't.
That's all right.
I can't remember his date.
After 1943, I'm sure of it.
Yes, for sure. It's on the Lewis jewel.
Yep.
And he had three brothers who were also Masons, and then Dad and his two brothers were also Masons, and they were raised in 91. And then there's me. So that's 4 generations, and it's
so far.
Super proud. Yes, right. So far.
So far.
So far.
Well, good.
So this Lewis jewel, since it's been presented to you, what do you do? Have you ever worn it to lodge? Do you wear it to Grand Lodge? Do you display it somewhere? Do you use it at Starbucks to get free cups of coffee? What do you do with
I didn't know
this?
that Starbucks would do that.
Oh, they absolutely won't, but I think you should try it.
I wear it when I can, and I put it in my pocket, but that's where my name tag goes.
Yep.
So this year, I'm the junior steward. Next year, I'll be the senior steward, and maybe I need to get a coat that's got a pocket on either side.
You know what, you know what, you Albert Pike guys, he's got a Lewis jewel, and I know we have another Mason there, Fred Smith,
Yes.
that I think that has a hell of a
He has
Lewis
one.
jewel. He's been on the podcast as well. Find some way so they can attach this Lewis jewel. We come in with our past masters jewels and different things, and I look like I'm a Venezuelan general when I come in there. So give them something to accommodate.
I always keep it on the inside pocket because whenever I go visit another lodge, I'll put it in there.
Well, Masons, we're known for putting our hands on the inside. That's an international sign that they all think that we use out there, right?
Yeah, you haven't changed, have you?
Yeah, I still perpetuate problems, right?
So, where did you grow up, actually? Let's go back a step or two. Yeah.
I grew up in Monterey, Virginia, Highland County. There was more cows than people. It was such a small little town. And the lodge
He's like us.
that was in that community was Highland Lodge number 110. 110, yes. And goodness, whenever I was growing up, I was maybe 6 or 7 helping my mom clean the lodge. And so I was in the room and I was looking at all the things and I was like, what the heck is this? What is that G? And then they had the light switches would turn on some candles and I was
great follow-up question, Russ. Look at that. The guy's back.
Just playing in the room. And then, every once in a while, mom would be like, hey, have you dusted that yet? I'm like, all right, mom, I'll take care of that. But it's looking back now. It's nice to have had that, I guess, growing up, to see those things and have zero idea what any of it is about.
Yeah. Well, probably more than anything, I want to kind of jump into Russ's story before. You were surrounded by men that were Masons that you didn't know were Masons. Sure. So you were surrounded by people that their obligation was to look out for families. So good on you.
Yeah.
Great follow-up, man. I love it.
So I noticed that you're wearing your hair a little high and tight. And so is there a purpose for that currently?
Right now, I just try to keep the professional military image going. It's a nice, clean look. And I just got my hair cut before I came here.
Well,
Wasn't
fantastic.
sure if we were going to.
And that was the lead into what do you currently do?
I'm currently
like pulling teeth, isn't it, Russ?
Yes, it is.
Active duty Air Force. Been in for 18 years and I'm a section chief, overseeing 170 some folks in the AMXS. And it's gone by so fast. 18 years, just like that.
So after you left Lackland, which everyone goes to Lackland, where'd you go? Where's some duty stations you've been?
I went to Whiteman Air Force Base, and that's where I met Abby.
Okay.
And
that's
in Warrensburg, Missouri.
Yep.
Yes, sorry about that. And she was working at the rib crib, and I
mean, who doesn't?
I ended up getting some takeout and spit some game. Right?
Some game.
Nothing advanced though. I was just like, hey, so you've been working here for a while, and
that was the line, huh?
Can I get your phone number? And since then, we've been really close, just growing and going through life together with 2 boys now. And
now I feel like he's messing with us because the ladies in our life, we actually both met them at a rib crib. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
It's a total lie. So that did not happen. But I would have had a different pickup line if I met my wife at the rib crib. I would have brought up something with Adam and Eve and that extra rib. But that's just me. I've got a little more game than most.
Wow.
I digress as I normally do.
All right.
So the military. So what's your? You go, obviously you're going to go at least 20. You wouldn't bail out at 18. Where do you think, what are you shooting for? Are you shooting for 20, 30, 50, 100? Or you're going to go for Omar Bradley's 70-year record?
It's going to be more than 20 for sure.
You got to put those kids through college.
Yeah, right. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Right now, I feel like I'm doing well, and it's fun to grow in the military as well, right? You learn how to motivate and lead people and mentor as well.
Yeah.
And it's a good feeling to be able to positively impact someone else's life or their career. And then, whenever I'm doing things in the lodge and through Masonry, it's kind of the same thing, because you're having those conversations with your brothers, mentoring whenever they were going through the degree work. It's I guess you could say that mentorship is something that I enjoy.
Yeah, I love
it. Like there's a lot of value to it.
You did a great leadership presentation in Lodge that I happened to be at, and I loved. I thought it was great. So I wanted you to know that didn't fall on deaf ears. So if you have a dream duty station, where's that dream duty station for you and your family? Because sometimes there's a cool place to go individually, but not for a family. But where would your dream duty station be?
I guess it's wherever I'm at currently.
Oh, that's BS answer. That's disgusting.
It's a good, I guess, outlook on things because you never know where you're going to go next. You just got to go, right?
Safe place to raise your family.
And right now, this community in Wichita is awesome. There's so many opportunities and a lot of great connections within the community as well. Yeah, for sure. With the base, so there's a lot of good support. It's not a bad base as well.
Yeah, great. No, that's good.
I'd like for you to answer this once we're off the air, but where would be the duty station you would like the least? Like, you just don't want to go
Guam.
But you don't have to answer now.
Yeah. So don't do that. Don't put him in there because, he's still active duty. And so on the podcast, we've had politicians, we separate Masonry from military Masonry. So anything he's talking about, he's not he is representing Masonry in this podcast. He's certainly not representing the Air Force. So that's for sure. Russ, is it you or me? Where are we at? Is your question?
Do you have any other?
I do. Okay. So mine's the interesting one, and I love a different perspective from a newer Mason.
Yes.
Why do you think more men aren't joining Masonry today?
That's a very good question. I think that we're all a product of our environment, and nowadays everything is quick, is fast. So whenever you're looking for the satisfaction of being in the lodge or finding value, figuring out why is this still important to me, it's not quick enough. I believe that it takes some patience. It takes a little bit of work. And it's not something where, you order something on Amazon and it's at your door the very next day. Very well could be, that's the fast pace of society nowadays. And I believe that there's some correlation there. And with Masonry being the oldest fraternity in the world, it still has, it requires a little more patience, I believe. And once you get that third degree, then, there's really nothing left for you to be given other than to show up to meetings, show up to study clubs, mentor folks, help people along the way.
That's what they think.
And then be able to do some research and be a speculative Mason. Think about the things that you've been taught and then assign new value to it. Bring it back to Lodge. Talk about it at a Masonic Ed.
Yeah.
That is where that's a good opportunity to give those values or meaning to those folks who are struggling, folks who haven't been for a while, but maybe they showed up today, and they hear a good Masonic Ed and they're like, wow, this is really cool. I never thought about that. That's something that I can take back with me and utilize it in my life.
Yeah.
I don't know, is that good? Does it feel like
it's the answer you want to give?
Yeah, there's not much more that I can think about. Other reasons why.
Yeah. Do you think we have an old message? Let me frame it a different way. Do you think men aren't joining because the message seems it's old, or would maybe more men join if we freshened up or modernized the message?
I feel like the message should stay the same.
Okay.
I do, because we don't want to. We don't really want to change based on society, because what I believe is Masons are out there in the world to correct society, if you will, right?
Okay.
Not to be extremely loud about it, but just your presence and how you interact with people, maybe how you approach challenges, like those little things show other people that you're around how a Mason lives and accepts these challenges in life. So I don't think that we should change drastically, but I think that these podcasts, for example, is a great avenue, a great way to talk about Masonry, as well as the video shoots that Robert Shively did a couple weeks ago.
Bob Shively's been on the episodes. He's a great man, a director of the Kansas Masonic Foundation.
Board.
Just absolutely beast for Kansas.
Yeah. So you are currently an appointed officer of Albert Pike. So let's just look into the future. When you are a master of a lodge, what would be your number one goal?
I think that education is very important. So my number one goal probably be, you definitely want to reach out to folks who haven't been in a while, which is something that is currently happening.
Absolutely, right? With the Grandmaster.
But maybe push for more Masonic eds, or maybe even, I don't know how much traction we could gain here, right? Or if it would be sustained, but perhaps have like a study club or a book club, let's say a book club, right?
Okay.
And give folks an opportunity to, let's read this chapter, once a week, or make it a month. You have a month to read this chapter, put some thoughts into it, and then everybody get together at study club and talk about it, right? Because I feel like that's a way for people to grow together rather than independently.
Yeah,
you wouldn't
fair.
want one person.
Does the book have to be Masonic, or could it be a team building book?
Oh, my goodness, yes. So that's that. Now we're talking about the different varieties of topics that you can have in Masonic ed, right? So absolutely, that would be a good one, because it might be something that's a little difficult to peel back and talk about it, right? But team building is awesome. Leadership roles, team roles, finances. Those are all great things to talk about.
Yeah. So those who have watched the podcast before, we did an episode on Masonic education. Masonic education doesn't have to do anything with Masonry. It can be. There's a lot of our older Masons that don't know much about social media. You could do a month where you bring somebody in and show them how to set up a Facebook and do a post, how not to type in all caps, all these different things. But I think, to your point, where you went first was education, which we all would agree with that. And for those who are masters now or going in, maybe take Brother Tim's direction of, let's just try to educate. And the other secretly what he's doing, they didn't realize, is he's finding another avenue to bring men together. And let's talk about, hey, you read this chapter. We're not asking you to read a book, because I'm not an avid reader. And if it's anything past 2 or 3 pages in a magazine, I'm outski, right? But if you've got a chapter of a book that we can talk about, maybe Who Moved My Cheese? And we're all right, what's Sniff and Scurry up to? Right. I think that would be great. I think that's a great move. That would be
how
a
else
great
do you
goal.
Make men better?
Absolutely.
But by
exactly.
education.
And there's a ton of books that were written years ago. Right now I'm reading one about by Robert E. Allen, and my goodness, just the little snippets of things. Each chapter is something different, and it makes you think about things that you've heard, right? But you've never like really honed in on that and thought about it and broke it down. And absolutely, that would be that'd be a great way to get people to grow together. But also to what you were saying about Facebook, right?
Sure.
Maybe even PowerPoint or SharePoint teams and things like that, because
now you've lost me.
Also, right? Like I'm not an expert in these things, and that's why it would be worth.
But that's making good men better. Let's share your strengths, my strengths, and how can we? And you post and say, "Hey, this week we're talking about X." Show up if you want, and you might be surprised. And if it's a topic that comes and you've got 40 people, it's like maybe we need to expand on this. And those 40 here, of you 40, what would you like to see next? I don't think we pull the craft enough. We set our agenda, right? Mm-hmm. But sometimes when you set the agenda, it's like, guys, what would you like to see next year?
I have visited other lodges within Kansas because they have put out on Facebook their Masonic ed for that night, and it's something that just popped it, and I went, I want to go see that. And you go and you grab another brother and go and visit. For sure. And in Kansas, one of the best is McPherson Lodge.
Yes. They shout out to McPherson Lodge. They're a small community north of Wichita. I'm not a Facebook guy, but I hear a lot about them, and I will tell you, I think at least what pops up in the little bit of feed that I see come around, they're the best. Fair?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do a great job. So normally our followers, you guys are used to seeing the most important question of the podcast. But we decided to change it up because it's Veterans Month and we have a veteran here. So those who know Malorts knows Malorts. So here's the kind of the backstory on Malorts that you may not know. So back pre-Prohibition, okay, Al Capone, he was in everything. You've heard of Al Capone, right? So he got into the Kentucky bourbon game. And on his crew was a person named Trelawny. It's opposite of Malort. And Trelawny, he created a mix of a Kentucky bourbon that was arguably better than Jack Daniels or Jim Beam. Okay? So Jack Daniels and Jim Beam were so upset because they were cutting into the profit that they paid the equivalent of $2 million to Capone to stop making this. Okay? Mm-hmm. Then Prohibition hit. So Capone's like, man, we're the man. So now come out of Prohibition, and Trelawny said, we're just going to go back into this again, and we're going to call it Malort, the opposite of. So it's made out of Chicago by the Carl Jeppson Company. And those who have had it, this is a shooter, my friend. I want you to try it. So guys, if you know, our friend is getting to try some Malort for the first time. Thank you. Cheers, my friend. And we're really excited. And those who have had Malort knows that Malort is the absolute worst tasting liquor in the world, and that we just pranked our friend on camera. So for the rest of you, thanks for watching the Old Fashion Masonic Podcast.
Oh, wow.
Cheers.
I walked right into that.
Cheers.